And when you get to Town Called Malice, there's a sad, mournful quality to that. And yet...
Well, I don't know. No, I don't know if I'm not sure if I'd agree with that. I think the lyrics just tell it like it is, you know. But there's always that kind of let-up at the end of each verse. But I sooner put some joy back in, you know, and that's the kind of let-up, really, that people need.
And it was the first one that a lot of people heard. I think it was released as a single before the album came out, and you'd been playing it live. And that signalled the change in the sound of the Jam, which previously had had kind of a really dense, raw sound, and you hear that on Going Underground and Eaton Rifles and tracks like that. And with the Gift album... soul and funk were influencing a lot of what was going on musically in the studio. So was that reflecting what you were listening to at the time?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. We had a DJ with us called A.D. Crowdstell. He was our DJ on tour, and he used to just sort of turn me on to loads and loads of records and give me bundles of records to take home and listen to. And I can remember going to Air Studios almost every morning. I'd always get in there early because I lived in London, and the others came from out of town. And I'd have like a little record session before we started every morning, you know. Just buzzing off these records I'd never heard before.
And that music you were listening to was then feeding into the...
filtered through in what we did that day, really.
So you hear in Town Called Malice that bass line, that Supremes Can't Hurry Love bass line. And you were upfront about those influences.
Well, yeah, I mean, it looks like it's the sort of thing you can deny, is it, really, you know? It's like when people go on about Start, you know, so it does sound a bit like Taxman. It sounds exactly like Taxman. But it worked, you know.
But that's a song which is driven by that bass line. But would you have... You had the words, and it reads almost like a poem, that song. So possibly that was already written before you went...
I probably had a lot of the verses. I might have finished off a couple of middle 8 or something like that. But I had most of the verses. I didn't necessarily have a song for them as such. And I think we just jammed on that riff that day, you know.
But you would be doing that on... Because you're sitting here at the moment with your acoustic guitar. But at home... When you're looking at lyrics in front of you, you would be just working your way through chords and then trying to find chords that fit the theme of the song.
Yeah. Almost all the songs I wrote at home from that time anyway. And around that time, I'd moved to a little flat in Pimlico. And it was a very small flat, so I used to kind of go in this funny little hallway. As you walked in the front door, there's not even a hallway, it's like a little kind of, you know, recess thing. Yeah. And I was sat by the front door writing these songs, you know, which seems a bit strange, really.
I mean, you're the biggest pop star in the country at the time. I mean, that's quite incredible. Did the neighbours hear the songs being written?
There wasn't that sort of money, you know, you know, it wasn't the big bucks it is, or has been, not so much now, but it was later on. And I wasn't particularly materially minded, you know. I was happy with what I got. I think I got £100 a week, and it was on, and that's fine with me. But it worked, didn't it? You know, it worked in that small little space to write these claustrophobic songs.
And you'd always write on an acoustic guitar then?
Yeah. I used to have an old Ovation, which I've still got, which is sort of like, it's been splintered and smashed over the years, but I've still got it anyway. And I wrote almost everything from like probably 1980 onwards on that guitar.
Yeah. And do you still have the lyrics, the original lyrics that you were writing?
No, I used to have this ritual, which I did up until recent years, where I would rip up or burn my books. I'd always have a book of lyrics. And once I'd finished the record, I'd destroy them, so they were kind of, that's it, gone, you know. It was kind of like a, you know, next step now, let's all start again, it's a fresh canvas.
That's ruthless creativity, though, isn't it? I mean, driving yourself
now, man,
yeah, they'd be worth a bit,
or something, yeah. So there you go.
So none of those lyrics exist. I mean, you would literally just destroy them, and that set the tone for the rest of the career, because, I mean, you've always done that. It's always been about looking forward, don't rest on your laurels. I mean, despite the fact we're looking back 30 years now, and increasingly you've been doing that, have you finally been able to kind of embrace your past and your legacy?
Well, I suppose so, yeah, but I mean, that only comes from being older, from getting old, you know. I'm comfortable with that now, you know. There was a period of time I would have shunned that, but I don't mind it now. But I'm also at that age where it's like, well, what does it matter? It's fine, you know.
Well, take us back to sitting in that little recess in the flat, writing Town Called Malice. Just, could you play us Town Called Malice now, just to give a sense of what possibly it would have sounded like when it was first written, when it first emerged?
Well, like I said, the day we would have been jamming on that riff on the... You know, and then over the top of that I would get this... It's like a D chord, without getting too muso, but it's like playing a D. But I just sort of changed it a little bit. So it's very kind of up, positive sort of sounding thing, you know. And then it goes all sour. You better start dreaming up to die that night, 'cause it's the one you'll never know. Quit remind of the runaway bus, 'cause those rosy days are few. Which is quite sort of melancholy sounding, but very, very melodic as well.
Right.
Stop, nothing. You know, like that.
And you're patching in the words there, so they don't automatically spring back. I mean, do you know all the words off by heart?
If I really, really concentrated, I guess I would do. But I haven't. It's because I haven't played it for a few. So I'm just like that, you know. If I'd been playing it yesterday, I'd remember the words. But I haven't played it for a few months, so it's kind of gone for a bit.
There are a lot of songs to remember on
There is a lot of songs, yeah.
So you take that version, that sketched out version.
But that's how it would have been. It would just be me going, you know. That's how I write songs, you know. And all of a sudden, the words start to form.
Right.
Or maybe I've got something pre-written that I think, that would fit that. But most of the time it's been me making stupid sounds, really. You know, until something comes, really.
Did you know immediately that you're onto something special, that this was going to be a play? You did?
Yeah, not about this was a #1 record, but it was like, this is a great record. Because everyone we played to, we had friends drop by, and everyone's just buzzing on it.
And it's a song about the hardships of life, of the big decisions. But, I mean, in the studio, a lot of the big decisions were on your shoulders. You were writing the songs, you were the front man, you were the spokesman for the generation. As you say, you were already feeling a bit confined by the limitations of the band. And now it's been reported that you had a bit of a breakdown in the studio at that time.
Yeah,
what happened?
I'm not sure about that. I think I've just been out too many nights in a row, that's all. I think it gets somewhat exaggerated. But I've been caning it, you know. I've been working hard. I've been writing and trying to get this album together with, you know, obviously with everyone else as well. So I stopped for a bit, you know. I just thought, right, I'm going to take a vow of abstinence for a bit and clear my head, which is what I did, you know. And
did that influence the sound of the music? Because there's a kind of sense of clarity on the record. Lyrically, even though there's a kind of melancholy aspect of Town Called Malice, a lot of the lyrics on the album, you think of the title track, gotta keep moving, gotta keep moving. There's a track called Running on the Spot where you're urging the people around you, your peers, your contemporaries, to change their lives around and to take control of their situations.
Well, I thought Running on the Spot for me was like, what have we achieved? That was kind of more for me. I wonder what me and my generation had actually achieved, you know.
Was it a slap in the face for punk because there's that line about stop revelling in rejection?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I still get annoyed even to this day, you know, when people talk about punk as the ground zero and all that stuff. Because it was great, you know, for about a year or something, and then that was it. But, you know, like any sort of scene, you've got to take what you believed in and what you thought were the good points in it, and you take it on and you make it something else, is exactly what we did, you know.
Did the album come together fairly quickly in the studio once you'd got the songs sketched out and written? Was it recorded fairly quickly?
Well, I think it was done in sort of 2 chunks. We started it before Christmas '81, and then we finished off in the new year. But I think it was fairly easy, really. There was a good mood amongst people, I think.
And I think at the time there was the complexity emerging in the songs as well. And one of the most striking songs on the album is Ghosts, the second song. I mean, it's a very fragile and haunting song, and it's about people living up to their potential, needing to live up to their potential.
Yeah.
Any idea how you wrote that? Can you cast your mind back? Do you know how it came about?
It started with a little riff, you know. Quite minimalist, you know. I wanted to try and keep like that. I can remember it goes after that. So I probably just had that, you know.
Yeah.
And then Bruce and Rick just sort of jammed along to it, really. But I like it. It's really sparse and there's not too much going on, really. It's just bass, drums and guitar. And the horns are on it.
There's some lovely lines on that song as well. I mean, it spreads some loving all around. Old-fashioned causes like that still stand. And again, it's a rejection of that sort of nihilistic sensibility that punk had brought in.
I was trying to write about what was going on around me, but I was also trying to put something positive back into it as well, you know.
It's almost like a rallying call, isn't it? Or imploring people to do better.
Just to see their own potential. That was the idea behind it, really.
Yeah. And it finishes with that line, lift up your lonely heart and walk right on through.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not sure about that one, but yeah.
Why?
I think it's just me trying to be sort of, you know, a little bit too classical, really. But, you know, some people like it, I don't know.
Was it about yourself as well to an extent, do you think? Ghosts?
Well, yeah, I think, probably, yeah. It wasn't a biographical song in any way, but, I mean, I could probably always see bits of myself in lots of my songs, really, you know.
Yeah, and you were playing the riff there, but, I mean, it's not a song that you've ever... I don't think you've played it since, have you, since the jam?
Well, it's boring to even talk about this, I guess, but it's too high for me now.
Yeah.
The years have taken their toll, you know. But if you change the key, you mess the song up, and some songs are like that.
But it's one you're particularly proud of, I guess, isn't it? I mean, it's one that many Jam fans cite as one of the finest. It was never a single, it was there on the album, but it's one which is always regarded as one of your classics.
Well, I like it a lot, yeah. I don't know if it's one of my classics for me personally, but I'm glad that people think that.
And the other song on the album that is held with that sort of affection is one that you're going to play us out with in this edition of the programme, and that's a song called Carnation. Again, it's quite a bleak song, isn't it? If you gave me a fresh carnation, I would only crush its tender petals. In a way, the song's a riddle, isn't it, which only resolves itself at the end of the End of the last verse.
Well, I thought because probably especially at that time, people think this is Weller writing about himself. It's not about me, it's about you, in fact, I like the twist at the end of it, it's got,
If you're wondering by now who I am, look no further than the mirror. Because, how's it go?
Can't remember.
You better check, because you're going to be singing it.
This is one I have played recently as well, which is even more sort of scary.
Paul, we've taken you back 30 years to the making of this record. You said at the beginning that when you set out to make the record, you had no idea that it would be the last Jam record.
No, I don't think so, no. I mean, I wasn't happy. I was a little bit sort of, kind of getting that way. But I think it was after we finished the record, I went away for a few weeks on holiday. And that was kind of when I thought, I've just finally had enough of this, I want to move on. It was the first proper holiday I've had, I think, really.
Ever?
I think so. As I remember, unless you count tours, which can be sort of holidays in some ways. But I'd only had sort of a few days in my mum and dad's caravan in Selsey, and I think I was 24 at that time, and it was kind of, I'd spent all my teenagehood in this band, and I wanted to go off and sort of see who else I could be, not only musically, but I mean in personality as well.
Was it difficult to tell them? To say, look, this is all over?
Yeah,
or were you just determined?
Yeah. It was horrible, yeah. I first told my dad, he was our manager. I can't repeat on Radio 4 what he said, but he wasn't happy anyway. He just thought I was bonkers, But then, so he said, well, you've got to tell the others, which I kind of dreaded. But it's like any relationship, really. It's always hard to say to someone, look, I'm not happy, I want to leave. It's awful for anyone, really. It's a horrible situation. But the weird thing was, on that very last tour, we were playing great, and we all seemed to be smiling on stage again, For me, anyway, the weight was lifted. It was like, thank God, I'm going to move on to have a little bit of breathing space and a bit of time on my own.
Paul Weller, thanks for taking us back 30 years to the making of The Gift. That's it for this part of the programme, the A-side, if you like. As Paul gets ready to play us out, let me remind you that in the second part of this edition of Mastertapes, the B-side, our audience will be posing the questions. You can hear that next Monday night at 11 o'clock, and you'll be able to hear both programmes at the Mastertapes pages on the Radio 4 website, along with exclusive live versions of some of the songs we've been discussing in this programme, including this one, Carnation, by Paul Weller.
If you gave me a fresh carnation, I would only crush its tender petals. With me I'll have no escape. At the same time there'll be nowhere to settle. I trample down all life in my wake.
And if you want to hear more material recorded at this Mastertape session, including exclusive performances, photographs and videos, go to the Mastertapes pages via the Radio 4 website.